What's up, guys? It is Sunday, so let's continue on knocking out the CD collection. This is video, I think, number 85 in the CD collection so far, which is absolutely nuts. We're on the K section, so we're slowly but surely knocking these videos out. Starting off, we have a band I think they're out of Birmingham, Alabama. This is Kamikaze Zombie with their debut full-length entitled Night of the Numerous. Kamikaze Zombie is a crossover thrash band, and they're pretty wild. I was fortunate enough to see these guys live not too terribly long ago, and they just put on a killer stage show. This album is pretty good, just some aggressive crossover thrashy goodness. And I have the follow-up to that entitled The Destroyer of All Things. If this is a band that you haven't checked out, this would probably be the album that I would start with. Personally, it is my favorite release from the band, but I do enjoy everything that I've heard from them. Just some wild. If you're into crossover, definitely check these guys out, because I think you will enjoy them as much as I do. And then when I saw them live, I picked up this EP. It's entitled Fiends of the Night. It's 5 tracks, but they're all cover tracks, and they do some pretty solid covers and they wear their influences on their sleeve. Obviously, when you see them live, you kind of get an idea of what these guys are into, and they do a Cro-Mags cover on here, Hatebreed, Negative Approach, Agnostic Front. But my favorite cover that they do on this EP is the Like Broken Glass Crowbar cover. They knocked that out. They knocked that one out of the park. But it's a fun little EP, and I was glad to be able to pick this up when I saw them live. Next up, we have another band that I saw live, but this was way back, I think, in 2010. This is Camelot with Poetry for the Poisoned. I saw them on this tour. It's the only release that I own from Camelot. They are kind of progressive / power metal. Pretty decent live. The vocalist, unfortunately, was out, and they had a replacement in, so I didn't get to see them with their true vocalist when they performed. But it's the only release that I've gotten from them. I got this when I was going to see them in concert. At some point, I may pick up some more Camelot. Not something I just listen to all the time, but Poetry for the Poison. There's a track on here called House on a Hill. That's probably the most memorable track for me personally from this release, because it's the only one that just really jumps in my mind when I think about that album. Next up, we have some technical death metal. This is Kamikaze with Aberration of Man. This was released on Unique Leader Records in 2012. I didn't realize it had been out that long. It kind of makes sense in my head now that I see it on the release. This is actually the second time that I've owned this album. I had it and I sold it, and then I had that seller's remorse, and about a year or so after I sold it, I picked it up again, and I paid more for it than I sold it for when I sold it, so that kind of turned around and bit me. But pretty solid. If you're into technical death metal, I think you will like Kamikaze. The artwork on that just kind of fits perfectly with this release as well. Usually when you see that Unique Leader logo on the back, you have a pretty good idea of what you're getting yourself into with the releases on that roster. Next up, we have Campfire with their full-length entitled Jevomat. Yeah, I butchered that. Pagan black metal. This release is smack dab like in the middle of the band's discography. Unfortunately, this is the only release that I own from Campfire, and I keep telling myself that I'm going to pick up more of their material, and I never do. This band got kind of blacklisted a little bit here in the States, which is unfortunate because I really don't think it was deserved. I think they kind of got lumped in with some bands that had some ideologies that people don't necessarily agree with. And I don't get that from this band. I never thought of them in that manner, so it's kind of unfortunate that they got kind of lumped in with some of those other bands. But Campfire, pretty good pagan black metal. Definitely want to get some more of that band's material in the collection. Next up, we have a band out of Germany. This band name is so hard for me to say. Canon Cannon in Fiber with Minchul. Yeah. This is their debut full-length, kind of melodic, blackened death metal. Super solid stuff. I love this album. This was released on Noisebringer Records. I believe this was actually the first release on that label. Very solid stuff. I've enjoyed everything that I've heard from this band. And I've there for a while before this got the reissue treatment. This is actually the first press, but they've done more presses since this. This was kind of hard to get your hands on, and people were paying some astronomical prices to pick this up. But if you haven't checked this out and you're into black and death metal, definitely check this one out because it is super solid. I have their follow-up EP to that entitled Yankee Division. As you can tell, it's all kind of war-themed. World War, I don't know which World War themed. I'm assuming World War themed. It's not in English, but killer stuff. A little pricey getting this EP shipped over, especially since it was 2 tracks. I think they have another EP that came out after this. If you can find it for sale in the States where you're not having to pay the exorbitant shipping prices, I would say pick it up. But I feel like I overpaid for that EP a little bit. It is solid, but definitely you're gonna get hit with those shipping costs. Next up, we have a band out of Russia. This is Carcinoma with their debut full-length entitled The Night Apogee of Madness. This was originally released by the band in 1998. This was given the I don't know if it was ever physically issued back in 98, but Stygian Crypt Productions out of Russia gave it the physical release in 2007. So I'm assuming it's a reissue. I would assume that the band probably had original release out in the late 90s, but I don't know for sure. Pretty good stuff. It's kind of hard to nail down Carcinoma as a particular genre. They have bits of like gothic power metal fused in with death metal and black metal and doom metal at times. They kind of go all over the place, but they're able to kind of master those transitions. It's a super solid release. They didn't have another album out until I think just a few years ago. So they've only got 2 albums in their discography and a huge gap in between. But this is a solid release as far as their debut goes. I definitely recommend that one. Next up, we have a band out of Sweden. This is Carmen Jaka with a album, I guess an EP title that I cannot pronounce. I don't speak Swedish. Sometimes it feels like for us English folks, it feels like Swedish when you're reading or looking at it and trying to pronounce it. It just looks like letters thrown at a dartboard and put together. Pretty good melodic black and death metal. Only 3 tracks long. It's kind of short, but it is super solid. This was pretty early on in the Black Line Records discography. I think this came out in 2016, so they were still, as far as a label goes, pretty young as far as Black Line Records is concerned. Pretty solid release. I do enjoy this one quite a bit. Speaking of melodic black and death metal, an album that I guess an EP that I absolutely fell in love with a couple years ago. This is Catan with their debut EP. I think this is the only release that they've put out so far. Self-titled Catan. It is kind of atmospheric black and death metal, very melodic at times. It kind of ventures almost into like post metal or even post rock territory as far as the way that they're building the atmospheres. But I just absolutely fell in love with this EP. I still love this EP, and I hope that this band puts out some more material. I think it was kind of a side project piece for the 2 members in the band, so I'm hoping that we'll get some more material because I absolutely loved everything about that EP. Next up, we have Cataclysm, and my Cataclysm discography is a bit lacking on their earlier material, which is unfortunate because I am missing my favorite 2 Cataclysm releases Sorcery, the debut. That's just a fantastic release, a must own. So at some point, even if I have to get a bootleg, I think I'm going to pick that up. And then their album entitled Epic, the Poetry of War. That's one that I did have before, but it was one of those that came up missing with some other stuff. But I'll show you what I do have in their discography. I still have a few of their albums. I have the Prophecy, Stigmata of the Immaculate, probably my favorite of the releases that I own from them. This is kind of, I feel like, when they were kind of teetering into that melodic death metal style, when they were kind of transitioning sounds, and it was kind of some people really liked this and some people really didn't, but it was pretty good. And as far as the ones that I own, it's probably my favorite. The one that came out after this is rivals Sorcery as my favorite Cataclysm release, period, and that's Epic, the Poetry of War. And unfortunately I just don't have that one, but I do have the one that came out after that entitled Shadows and Dust. This one's pretty solid as well. Actually, I don't really dislike anything from Cataclysm. I know that there are people that just don't care for the super melodic style that they have these days, but it's just one of those bands transition sounds as they transition band members and over time. And despite the transition in sound, I still say Cataclysm has been very consistent in putting out good death metal. I have the Prevail, probably my least favorite of the ones that I own. This is the 2-disc version. It has a little crack on the case, as you see. Usually I would change it out, but since it's in that double disc case, I don't have a spare one of those doubles to change that one out. It's not cracked to the point where it's unusable, so I just kind of left it in with what we got. I'm not going to pull that out and show the other disc just in case it decides to break, just because I kind of said that I was going to leave it in that disc, and I don't want it to all fall apart right here in this video in front of you guys. Next up, we have Heaven's Venom from Cataclysm. I actually really like this one, and it's one that a ton of people strongly dislike, and I don't know why I like it so much. I shouldn't like this. The production value seems a little low in comparison with some of their other material. I like everything about this aside from maybe the packaging. I don't like the packaging on it, but as far as the music goes, I did find this one super enjoyable. And then I have Waiting for the End to Come, as I got a lot of this newer super melodic Cataclysm, but it's just one of those bands. I don't even look at it as a guilty pleasure. I mean, I just enjoy pretty much everything that this band has put out. Then I have of Ghosts and Gods. Now this is one that was a little bit lower on my radar and preference of their material, and a lot of people liked this one. They felt like it was a return to form. I didn't dislike it, but there's other Cataclysm releases that I own that I would listen to before this one, like Heaven's Venom. Everybody hated that, but I would grab Heaven's Venom before Of Ghosts and Gods 9 times out of 10. So maybe there's something wrong with me and my preferences, but yeah. And then I have the newest, I think this is their newest release. It is the last one that I've picked up, entitled Unconquered. And I like this one. I like this one much more than the Of Ghosts and Gods full length. So, and I heard a lot of people talking bad and talking down on Unconquered when it came out, but I found it super enjoyable. So, but that's it for my Cataclysm discography. I definitely at least want to get my hands on the 2 older ones that I mentioned, but at some point I would just like to fill out that entire discography, because it is a band that there's nothing in their discography so far that I've heard that I just absolutely do not like. We have some more black and death metal. This is Catacon with Coronation. This was released on Nuclear War Now Productions. I think this came out around 2015. I could be off on the date. I believe this band's out of Norway. Pretty good. Man, I was worried about the Cataclysm case coming apart, and this one got me. And the bad thing is, I go through these cases before I record to make sure stuff like this doesn't happen, and looks like I failed miserably today. So let's try this again. Very dark, kind of occult themed. Obviously, you can kind of get that from the artwork there. Black and death metal, but it's good stuff. I do recommend this one. I'll probably leave this one out and give it a spin at some point today. Next up, we have a band out of Romania. This is Catharos 13 or Catharos 13th. I've heard them called both names. It's just the Roman numeral 13 after Catharos. With I think this is their second or third full length entitled Negativity. This is probably my favorite release out of their entire discography. They are on this release. It's depressive black metal, but it also kind of teeters into like this doomy, even Black and Doom territory at times. But I found this album, out of all of their releases, to be the most desirable. This was released on Loud Rage Music. It's been out for a little bit now. I think they put out probably a couple of albums since this one has come out, but a good solid release here from Catharos 13th. Next up, we have Keldian with Journey of Souls. I think this band is out of Norway. I could be wrong on that. This is some power metal. This is the only release that I own from this band. I think it's their sophomore release, but it's super solid power metal. This is one that's just kind of stuck in the collection with me. I got this, I think, as a freebie in an order years ago, and I ended up enjoying this, I think, more than the album that I ordered in that order. So that's always a plus when you get a freebie in an order that is better than what you actually ordered. So super solid power metal there. I definitely recommend that one. I'm not a huge authority on power metal. It's not a genre that I seek out just all the time, but that is a solid release. Next up, I have one that's still in the plastic. I had owned this album before and rehomed it, and then it made its way back into my collection. And at some point, I will revisit it. I don't want to just get rid of it again and then end up liking it and wanting it back. But sometimes I just like to let stuff simmer. When I don't like it the first time, I'll let it simmer for a little bit, and hopefully I'll like it better. Maybe I'm in a different mood or something when I listen to it again. Enough rambling on that. This is Ken Mode with, I think this is their fifth full-length album entitled Entrench. From what I remember, it's kind of metallic hardcore, noise rock, metallic hardcore, post hardcore at times. I don't know, something about it irked me when I listened to it before, but that's kind of what I remember as far as the as the sound that I got from it way back when I listened to it. This was released on Season of Mist, but at some point I will peel the plastic off and give it another go, and maybe I'll enjoy it a little bit more this time. Next up, we have a death metal band out of Italy. I think they're kind of pegged as progressive death metal. This is Kinos with their full-length entitled Pest. They're pegged as progressive death. I kind of get a mix of technical death metal slash, I guess, kind of like melodic technical death metal is the mainstay as far as the genres that you're going to hear from Kinos. I actually really like this album. I think they have some other material out that I will have to try to seek out at some point. I don't know how hard it will be to find physical formats of their other stuff, but at some point I would like to see if I can seek out some more of their material, because I did enjoy this full length. It was released on My Kingdom Music, and I don't see a date, 2018, so it hasn't been out. I guess it's been out 5 years. I was going to say not too terribly long, but time right now, it just seems like everything just kind of runs together. I don't know whether I'm coming or going anymore. Next up, I have two that I feel very fortunate to have. Ken over at Ken's Death Metal Crypt actually made these for me. He was sending out care packages there for a while when he was vamping up his YouTube channel and he was getting in front of the camera for the first time. And I was fortunate enough to get something from him, and he actually sent me like a little care package, and it had some tapes that he made. And at the time, I actually didn't have a tape player, and he went out of his way and made me these two CDs, mixtape CDs of old school death metal. So I'm all, and he put so much work into these. I'm still just kind of taken aback that out of his generosity, and it's just awesome. It's an awesome piece to have in the collection, something that Ken put together for me. This is Ken's Death Metal Crypt presents Old School Death Metal Volume 1. It's got 4 different bands on here. You've got let me open it up because I'm going to butcher it. Burial Vaults on here, Kadath, Phlebotomy, and Necrotic Mutation. Yeah, I butchered that, but he actually took the time to type everything out and then do make the CDRs and do the album art or promo or demo arts there on the inside. Good stuff. Some stuff that I probably never would have heard otherwise, because this is all early 90s material. And he actually made me 2 of these discs, and this is the volume 2. And this has got 4 different demos on it as well. I'll show you the inside where he just kind of went out of his way to, and he put so much work into these that it just the generosity of people that I've met through this channel always just kind of blows my mind. So thank you for sending me those again, Ken. Next up, we have a German pagan black metal, I guess is the best way to put it. They get a little folky at times. This is Kerbenach with their demo entitled, I guess it's an EP, entitled, yeah, it's in German, Der Erschwaschen. Yeah, it was released through Northern Silence Records in, I don't see the date, 2008, so it's been out for a little bit. Pretty solid. I think they have a full length that came out a little bit after this. I don't own it, but I do. All I own from the band is this EP. Pretty good. I don't think the band is together anymore, unfortunately, but this was a pretty solid EP. Next up, I have a compilation album that features 2 demos from this band. This is Karasphorus. Yeah, probably butchered that. This was released. It's a self-titled compilation released through Hell's Headbangers. Been out for a little bit. It has the Necronaut EP or demo from 2011, and then the Cloven Hooves at the Holocaust Dawn from 2009. Black and death metal, pretty solid. I do like this. You can find copies of this probably super cheap. I think they throw these on the Hell's Headbangers sales if they still. I'm sure they still have copies, but if they don't, that's where I think I got this one from. But pretty solid. I do like this. If you're into black and death metal, that kind of sulfuric kind of black and death metal, I think you will dig this one as well. Next up, we have a release off of Nottermock Productions. You guys know I love me some Nottermock. This is Keys of Orthonk with a Dush Goldar. Yeah, I butchered that. This is atmospheric black metal. Gets a little too dungeon synthy for me at times. It's kind of like ambient atmospheric black metal. This is their debut full length. They've got 3 or 4 that have come out since this. This is the only one that I've picked up. I haven't listened to it in a while. As I was saying, it gets a little too dungeon synthy for me at times. That kind of turns me off sometimes, and I don't know why. I love atmospheric black metal, and you would think dungeon synth would be one of those genres that I just love. And it's very hit or miss for me. And something about this one, just the atmospherics on it. I mean, it's pretty good. I haven't listened to it in a while, so I may need to revisit this one. But as far as like Nottermock Productions releases that I own, this was probably one of my least favorite, unfortunately. And then last but not least, we have some more Tolkien theme stuff. This is a brutal death metal band out of Wisconsin, I believe. This is Khazad-dûm with In Dwarven Halls. This is their debut demo. 3 tracks, super solid. Came out in 2015. I had a friend recommend this band to me back when this release was just out. It's got a guitar pick from the band that I just kind of have folded up, tucked in the jewel case there. Very good. I like the full length a bit more, and that one's entitled Plagues Upon Arda. This is the version that was released straight from the band in 2017. It is not on a label. Solid full debut full length. If you're into brutal death metal and you think like Tolkien themed brutal death metal based on the dwarves, I may have said trolls, but based on the dwarves is something that you might be into, I would highly recommend checking this one out. I absolutely love it. I think it got the reissue treatment from a black market metal label shortly after I ordered this one, and I think I actually had a copy of that come in Metalhead box at one point that I rehomed. But super solid. I do enjoy this one quite a bit, so definitely check out some Kazai Doom. That's all for this week. I hope you guys found some stuff in here that you want to check out. Hopefully I'll be back next week to do the CD collection. I have some other stuff that I'm going to try. I say this every time, but I'm going to try to get some videos knocked out because I have stuff just piling up again and it gets a bit overwhelming. But I hope you guys have a good week. Stay classy, stay metal, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys soon. I promise.